Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we're just going to be taking a quick look at adding a couple of Brusho colours to a sketch just to enhance it. So not really painting with the Brushos as such, more preserving the sketch and enhancing the sketch and making the sketch the star of the show rather than the painting. So sometimes we do a nice sketch that we're happy with and we don't want to cover it up, but we do want to add a little touch of colour to it. So this sketch was done using a dip pen, using the calligraphy ink. So it's this one here by Dale Rowney, and the thing about this one, it's permanent and it's light fast, and that's just the black one. And I used my old dip pen for doing that, and I'll put the video at the end of the actual drawing of the rose. So for a reference photo, you can get lots of reference photos of roses online, places like Pixabay, or you can go and pick some roses from outside. But I actually have an old book from the florist shop from when I used to be doing floristry, and I find it quite handy because it's got all the different leaves and flowers in, so it's quite a good little reference just to get some ideas of shapes. So I've been using that today. So not necessarily using any particular colour. The colour doesn't have to, match your subject, and it doesn't have to be a flower. Whatever you're doing, if you've got a nice little sketch that you've done using a dip pen with some interesting lines that you don't want to hide, and we could just add a little touch of colour to brighten it up. So the two colours that I've chosen are orange and Sunburst Lemon. So that's the orange and the Sunburst Lemon, and I've just made quite a watery mix of those two together. Now to begin with, I'm going to wet the paper in a couple of places, but not all over, just using a flat brush, and keep it quite geometric. Actually, I'm going to keep this nice and straight where I'm wetting it. So one line coming down here, or a block of colour, and make sure it comes up above that last rose there. So where you put the colour is entirely up to you. But if we just wet the paper first, especially as it's such a hot day today, I know I've mentioned this a little bit recently about how hot it is, but can't really get away from it at the moment. So, and another block of colour coming down here, and I think that's going to be enough. So I'll set off with the yellow and just pop it into that water, but not right up to the edge, and we're going to let that sort of bleed out and fade out, so that it's quite abstract really. And then the orange going this way. It's not necessarily as bright as the yellow, the orange, but it's quite a nice colour. And you don't necessarily have to go over the flowers or over all of the leaves. Just wetting that edge to let it bleed out a little bit more, want it nice and soft. Okay, and whilst that's wet, we'll add a tiny touch of the opposite colour to each side. So I'll put some of the lemon into that orange, but don't overdo it, just a tiny amount, and some of the orange into the lemon. And actually that's drying really quickly, so I may have to just give that a little spray. So even though we had the water on first and then the paint itself, and it's only taken us a few seconds, it's still drying very, very quickly because of the heat. So from quite a distance, so this is my spray bottle, but I'm going to go from quite a distance so that I'm not moving it too much. And I do apologise for that blue bottle that's just gone past. It's a bit of a problem at the moment trying to get rid of all these flies that are in here. And I think we just need a little bit of extra yellow over this side. So I may actually just sprinkle it into some of this where we've got, so it's a bit of a, a trial and error, have a bit of fun with it. Such a dominant colour, that yellow, you perhaps need a bit more on that side. And a little bit of this orange as well. That's better. Okay, so I'm going to leave that now, let it sink into the paper, let those colours merge together. and we'll still have that nice line of the drawing showing through. So it doesn't matter that you've not filled those petals in, that you've not painted it, it's just a nice little image of those flower shapes, just with that little bit of colour added to brighten the whole thing up. And as that fades and sinks into the paper, you'll see the lines more of the actual drawing. So if you did this with watercolour, they would fade a lot more than the Brusho. So just be careful with your Brusho if you're used to working with watercolours. They don't fade to the same degree as your watercolours, so just be careful you don't put too much on to begin with. You could always add more, and when it's dry you can always reactivate it and add more water if you do want a little bit more colour. Okay, so I hope you found that useful. If you've got Brushos, it's a very good way to use them just to add a little bit of colour to an ordinary drawing or sketch. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. I'll be back again soon, and bye for now.